Hi, do I look kind of blurry to you? I feel kind of blurry today. And here's the reason why. Um, if you take the time to do research, you'll find some very interesting facts about things that are dangerous, relatively speaking, and things that are less dangerous, and things that are hardly dangerous at all. So, what I mean here is, like, say for example, if you take a gun and you point it at your head and you just, you're messing around with it, pushing and pulling on things, that's really dangerous, not to mention ignorant. That's a very dangerous thing to do. And the chances are high, very, very high, that you will either be killed or damaged severely. That's dangerous. Now, then we can look at flying in a commercial airplane. Now, it does vary from country to country. When I lived in Indonesia, we heard about airplane crashes of commercial airplanes pretty much every year because the standards in Indonesia were at that time lower. Okay? I believe they've improved since then. Here in America and in many other countries in Europe and parts of Asia, the standards are much higher, and the rate of accidents involving passenger planes, jet planes, commercial ones, not the private ones, is very, very, very low. You're much more likely to die of, say, slipping in your bathtub and falling and cracking your head open, or dying in a traffic accident, or a whole bunch, a long list of other things. And then there is the risks that are associated with things such as vaccines. So what I mean by that is, well, it's not really a clear subject, is it? It's very confusing because in the first vaccines, they used live, like for smallpox, if I remember correctly, what the doctor who came up with the idea did was he took a variant of smallpox from an animal that had it, and he inoculated somebody with it to see what would happen. The child, I believe, I think it was a child. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit sketchy on the details, but the person who he inoculated with this variant of the smallpox that was affecting humans did not get sick from that exposure to that pathogen. Nor, in fact, did he get sick ever from smallpox. And that was how they figured out the first vaccination, to use a live related pathogen or germ to produce an immune reaction in a person because it was similar to the germ that was killing people in large numbers. It was successful in also resulting in the human body being able to repel smallpox, which previously a lot of people were dying of it. And now, the only place that smallpox exists is in certain laboratories where it's closely guarded. Now, as technology advanced in vaccinations, they changed what they did. So in some cases, they would take the actual pathogen and they would weaken it, or they would even kill it and then vaccinate people with it. Now, obviously, if you have a weakened pathogen, there is still risk for you that pathogen will successfully multiply in your body and make you ill from with that disease that it causes. But if the pathogen is dead, that can't happen. It will produce an immune reaction. Okay, you're always potentially going to have an immune reaction to a vaccination. It may just be your arm is sore. It may be that you have temporary symptoms like a cold or a flu or something like that. But there's always the potential of that happening. But if the pathogen that was introduced as a vaccine is dead, you cannot get the disease from the vaccine because it's dead. It's not a zombie that's inside your body. It's a dead germ that your body doesn't know is dead and is still reacting to. This doesn't always work. Okay? So newer technology for vaccinations doesn't use a live pathogen and it doesn't use a dead pathogen. Instead, it works by preventing the pathogen from attacking the way it attacks. So the technology has to, well, let me rephrase that. Here's the challenge. If we talk about, let's talk about SARS-2, okay? In SARS-2, there are different variations of it. How many major and minor variations, I don't know, I haven't looked at it recently, but there are. And if you get one variation of SARS-CoV-2, you can't get sick from that variant again. However, other variants that are different enough from that one can cause you to get sick again. So, one bout of SARS-CoV-2 or SARS-2 may not cause you to get really sick. You may not even know you've had it. But the second one, you may. The third, and there, again, it's not sure. People don't seem to agree on how many variants there are, but that's not important. The important thing is, and this is something I used to be concerned about when they started talking about making the vaccines, is I understood about this, and I realized if they made a vaccine that targeted a variant, say the dominant variant in the US, or the dominant variant in Great Britain, or the dominant variant in India, that vaccine would only be definitively effective against that strain, and either less or not effective against the other strains. And so when I heard about the vaccine, I was thinking, well, gosh, are they targeting just one strain? Because if they are, I'm not going to get that vaccine. But I then discovered that they were not targeting the strain. They were targeting how SARS-2 attacks our body. And they're using something called mRNA technology to prevent the attack. So it doesn't matter which strain it is. All of the variants have the same way of attacking. So this technology will work. And it doesn't use a living or a weakened or a dead version of the virus. All right, the coronavirus is not being injected into your body. That means that you may have an immune response, you may get sick for a day or two, and in very, 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 very rare cases, you may have a serious reaction. Like I talked to my doctor today, and I've also talked to an immunologist. And for those who don't know, an immunologist is an expert in this kind of stuff. And they finished a study, the results of which were published on Monday regarding the blood clots from the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And it was 13 women had blood clots out of millions of people. Millions. So already we're looking at a risk factor that's like 0.000001 or something like that. The chances of you getting a blood clot as a male are basically null, and as a woman are darn close to that. So, but you can say, well, what if I'm one of the exceptions? Yes, that's true, but only 1 or 2 people have actually died. Okay. Now, in America, there are 3 types or 3 brands that have been produced of the vaccine that they're being distributed for free by the government or being paid for by insurance companies. They are Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson and Johnson, which is often. I took my daughter to get vaccinated yesterday because she just kept on pestering me about it. She really wanted to get it done, and I saw that on the list it said Janssen. It didn't say Johnson and Johnson. It said Janssen. So I asked the nurse that was injecting my daughter, "What is this Janssen vaccine? Is this a new one?" She said, "No, that's the name that Johnson and Johnson uses for it." I was like, "Oh, okay. I don't understand why, but okay." So if we look at the three of them, okay, some people like the Johnson and Johnson vaccination, which is the one that causes the blood clots very, 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 very rarely, okay, but it causes them because it's only one shot. Whereas Pfizer and Moderna, you get 2 shots about a month apart. Okay. The Johnson and Johnson one, however, has an actual efficacy of only about 65%. Whereas Moderna has an efficacy of about 95%, and Pfizer is 98%. So to me, I'd rather get 2 shots and be almost 100% guaranteed of not getting the virus as opposed to having a 35% risk with Johnson & Johnson's vaccination. I've been sick many times in my life. I've had dengue fever. I've had typhoid fever and some other stuff. I'm still alive. I've also had to take medication. I try not to take medication unless I need it. Like right now, I'm on 4 different allergy medicines, and I've got a medicine to help keep my stomach from too much acid indigestion, and I've got hypertension medicine, and I've got one other. I can't think of off the top of my head. But yeah, so I'm they're keeping me healthy and alive. My blood pressure doesn't go up, so I don't get dizzy. I don't risk stroke. I don't risk cancer of the esophagus because of the stomach medicine. And the allergy medicine keeps me from having extreme breathing problems because of our pet cat. But here's the truth, okay? You have almost no risk of having serious side effects from any of the vaccinations used in the U.S. You have more risk of having some kind of side effects, mild, medium, severe, life-threatening, from the medications your doctor might prescribe you than you have from a vaccination. Vaccinations, and I know this is very controversial, but if you actually talk to immunologists and you look at scientific journals as opposed to quack doctor websites on the mainstream internet, you will discover that the link between vaccinations and autism has never actually been proven. Okay. Now I know you're going to say, but the CDC is covering it up, the FDA is covering it up, the government is covering up. Well, if that's what you want to believe, that's your choice. But you're putting your child at risk by refusing to get vaccinations. And the number of people who have supposedly acquired autism from vaccinations since the beginning of vaccinations with smallpox vaccinations is so low. And the number of lives that have been saved by these vaccinations is in the billions. Okay, so we're talking a difference of a drop of water versus an entire world of water. Okay, or maybe I'm understating it. Maybe it's even more different than that. Maybe it's a grain of sand versus all the planets in the solar system. The point is that if you're worried about your child getting sick, think about this. Would you like to take a 0.00000 number of zeros, 1% chance risk that your child will have an adverse reaction that will hurt your child temporarily or permanently or God forbid, kill your child? Or would you like to take the definite risk that your child will get sick from and or die from one of the many diseases that the vaccinations prevent, like smallpox, polio, chicken pox, typhoid fever, rabies, rubella, mumps, diphtheria, tetanus, and so on. Because those diseases are more dangerous than any vaccination we've got. Look, I understand you're worried. You hear all kinds of things on the internet. Like my daughter just got told by her best friend that her family member said, if you get the vaccination, you have the virus and you are going to be communicable. The virus is going to be communicable from you for 2 weeks. Well, since the virus isn't even being injected, that's a lie. But I get it. I get that you're worried. You love your kids and you don't want something bad happening to them. Perfectly understandable. I don't blame you for being doubtful. We have an awful lot of examples of bad politicians, even bad doctors and nurses. So we often feel like, and I felt this way, I feel this way, that we don't know who to trust anymore. We don't know if the president that's going to be elected is going to be a good president or a bad president, and it can be very confusing. It can be very frustrating. We can feel like we are disenfranchised. We can feel like we're at a serious risk. And this is not an unreasonable feeling to have. And I've even heard people say, well, the government's trying to hurt us. Look, this one's really easy. I mean, think about it this way. Is everybody required to get the vaccination? No. If that's the case, how could the government target the entire population? Well, if the government wanted to target the entire population, there's a much easier solution. Air, water, food. Any one of those could be a perfect carrier. Okay? Let that sink in for a second. Air, water, food, or any other and other beverages. They could be designed with something in them to control you, to track you, to make you weak and unmotivated. So really, trying to use vaccinations to do that is kind of stupid, because you're not going to get everybody to do vaccinations. But everybody's going to eat, everybody's going to drink, everybody's going to breathe. You see what I mean? You know, I worry about my kids. I worry about their health. But I try to take the approach of, what's the greater risk? What's really the greater risk? And I try to look at facts, not some gossip that somebody passed on to me. And I you know what's really sad is there are doctors and nurses out there who are passing on fake information. And personally, I feel that these people should be jailed, because they're making people who are already scared even more scared. But if you go to epidemiologists and immunologists, or even regular doctors, they should tell you, number one, the vast majority of people, I mean millions and millions and millions of people, are not at risk with these and other vaccinations. And they should also tell you the vaccines don't pose a risk of you becoming infected with the disease. And you should be able to trust your doctor to tell you the truth. And you should be able to look at scientific journals and see whether what they're saying is true or false. And if you don't believe them, I'll be happy to help. Or maybe and I mean no disrespect, but maybe your level of education doesn't allow you to understand scientific journals. Not even the abstract, which is kind of like the summary of the results. I'll help you. If you want to leave a comment and say, I want to read this article, but it's too complicated, or even if you're embarrassed to say that, just say, hey, Glenn, would you please look at the scientific research and tell me what it means? Because I don't, you don't even have to tell me you don't understand. Just say, hey, help me out here. What do you think it's saying? And I'll be happy to tell you what I see in that. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not being paid by anybody to do this. I'm not being manipulated or coerced or anything like that. I just want people to take the right risks. If you're willing, just think about it this way, okay? If you're willing to go to fast food restaurants and eat junk food and eat comfort food whenever you feel sad or scared or whatever, those things alone have a much higher risk of hurting or killing you than any vaccine that exists now. A much higher risk. Your bad habits, not getting enough exercise, eating too much sugar, eating too much oil, eating too much salt. If you don't, if you're like me, like I can't have too much salt because I have hypertension that is connected to salt. If you're consuming these foods, you're gambling, really. You're gambling with your life. But if you're getting a vaccination which prevents a dangerous disease from hurting or killing you. Have you ever met somebody who had polio? I have. I had a girlfriend in Indonesia before I got married, and her brother had polio, and his one leg was bad because of it. It was like a child's legs in size, and it was shorter than his other leg because it couldn't grow properly, and so he was walking around, hobbling and stuff like that. And I've met other people who've been stricken by polio. I've seen the consequences of not getting enough folic acid in your diet. I met a girl who had half of a fake leg, and she told me that her spinal cord was exposed at birth because her mother hadn't gotten enough folic acid. And I've heard and seen other things as well. Again, I understand that you're worried, and maybe you've heard things from people that you feel you can trust that make you believe that the risk is too high. But if you just take the time to look at the risk of a problem from a vaccination versus the risk of getting that disease you're not vaccinated for and the consequences, I think you'll start to think differently about it. And I know you're probably not going to. You probably don't have any reason to trust me, or you probably don't have any reason to feel like Glenn's right. What the hell? I should probably look into this and see what the facts actually are. But I hope you will. Not for me, but for yourself and for your loved ones. There are people that I know personally who I love dearly who won't get the vaccination. And there's nothing I can do about it. They won't listen. And it makes me very sad to think that someday, because somebody lied to them or unintentionally gave them bad information because they believed the wrong thing, that I could lose those people. That's really horrible. So, take a look. And I think that you'll see what I'm trying to say is correct. Please don't go asking your neighbor. Don't go asking the person at the grocery store or the person walking down the street. You have to talk to the experts. The experts are the ones who know. If you wanted to get your car fixed, would you go to a brain surgeon? No. If you wanted to educate your child in chemistry, would you talk to a physical education teacher? No. If you wanted to learn how to program, would you talk to a gravedigger? No. You got to talk to the people who actually know. If a doctor starts saying things about vaccinations that are negative, you need to talk to experts. Because at least from what I've seen, the doctors who are saying, "Oh, the vaccine is bad," don't get it. They're not experts in immunology. They're not experts in epidemiology. They have not got the background to be making the claims that they're making. I don't want something bad happening to you or your family or your friends. I probably don't know you, but just to me right now, the thought that maybe somebody who's watching this video could end up dying because they haven't been given the right information or they've been lied to, they've been manipulated, makes me want to cry. Isn't that silly? I mean, I don't know you, and you don't know me, but I want to cry just thinking about the fact that you could die because somebody gave you bad information about vaccines. Or you could lose somebody you love. Imagine how that would feel. You lose your child because you refused vaccinations entirely. That would break my heart. My children they're my life. And I would hate to lose them because somebody gave me bad information and I didn't listen to people who were trying to help me to believe the truth. There are so many things out there in the world that are much more dangerous that you do on a daily basis compared to vaccines. Driving a car, cooking, taking a shower, walking in the rain. So many things. And vaccinations isn't one of them. Please, you don't have to believe me, but please look at the facts. And understand for yourself. I have no reason to lie to you. I'm not a liar by nature, which has sometimes been a problem for me because I'm too honest. Just ask some of my ex-employers. I'm too honest. I wish you happiness and success. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.